Hey, all you multilingual folks, have you ever had any funny moments where someone didn't expect you to understand what they were saying? I'm American, but I speak a bit of Russian. A few years back, I was in St. Petersburg and decided to grab tickets for the boat to Peterhof. All the signs at the booth were in Russian, so I had no trouble figuring out the prices. But I guess it was obvious I wasn't from around there, so this sneaky ticket seller tried to charge me triple. I looked her right in the eye and, in clear Russian, went, "But the sign says one ticket costs X." You should have seen her face. Her jaw practically hit the floor. Her coworker next to her was dying laughing. As far as I know, that's pretty typical in Russia. Locals get one price and tourists get another. I'm walking around Italy with a German buddy, and I warn him in German, "Bro, maybe don't go talking shit about people. Who knows if someone here understands us?" There's a woman walking right next to us and she goes, "Yeah, for example, me." We had this little Chinese joint near our college campus where everyone spoke Chinese. Even though I speak Chinese, I always talk to them in English, because I'm a bit self-conscious about my accent. Anyway, I usually got rice with meat from them, but this time I already had rice at home, so I just went in to order the meat. I walk in, place my order with no rice, hand over my money. Then I hear the cashier yelling in Chinese to the kitchen staff, "This fat ass only wants meat, no rice." She turns back around and adds in Chinese. That's right, I've already got plenty of rice at home. From that day on, they always hooked me up with extra and never charged me a dime. My friend and I were trying to get home after a night of partying, but it was a long trip and we didn't have much money. So we found these two other girls who also needed to go our way and suggested we all share a taxi. They were cool with it, so we called a cab. My friend, who's half Finnish and half Swedish, didn't want to speak Swedish. I was like, "Come on, just speak Swedish." I totally forgot we'd just been talking in Russian about maybe skipping out on paying. Then I get a text that says, "They're not planning to pay for the taxi." I'm like, maybe someone should tell the driver. So my friend turns to the driver and goes, "Don't let these two out until they cough up their share." The driver locked the doors, and in the end, we had to pony up the money. I lived in South Korea for 3 years, but barely studied Korean. During that time, I met this Korean woman who spoke English, and everyone assumed she wasn't a local because she was really tall and had a thick American accent. She'd studied in the States and New Zealand. Anyway, when she went on to finish her studies at an international university in South Korea, her classmates thought she couldn't speak Korean, so they'd sometimes trash talk her right in front of her. She never let on that she understood. She just put up with it for a whole year, until graduation day. On graduation day, she got up on stage in front of like 800 people, and without a shred of an accent, she let out everything she'd been bottling up all that time. Word is, while she was talking, all the higher-ups and professors started scrambling, especially because they'd been calling her an unintegrated pig. People who were there said she ended up bursting into tears of joy right on the spot. I didn't get to see it myself, though. When I was 16 and started working at McDonald's, I ended up on a team that all spoke Spanish. They had no clue I also spoke pretty decent Spanish, so sometimes they'd talk a bunch of smack about me right in front of my face, and I'd just act like I didn't get it. This went on for a few weeks, until one day the manager comes up to me and says he's done putting up with them because they're not even worth 2 cents. So I look at him and respond in Spanish, "Cool, but I know 3. Dude was absolutely stunned when he realized I'd been understanding everything the whole time, and even jumped in on their convos now and then. I'm half Peruvian, half Swiss, but I live in Peru. You'd never guess I've got any Swiss in me just by looking. Anyway, one time I was on a bus and overheard these two girls behind me talking about how hot Latino guys are. Suddenly, one of them asked the other if she thought I was good looking. I didn't even wait for an answer, just whipped around and said, "Yeah, I'm curious about that too." It was hilarious. The looks on their faces were priceless. Shame, confusion, the whole 9 yards. But hey, now I've got 2 new friends. Edit number 1, they were speaking Swiss German, Schweizerdeutsch. Edit number 2, later they admitted they both thought I was attractive. I'm an American expat living in Thailand, and I've got a big beard that gets a lot of attention. Locals, not realizing I can understand them, sometimes yell stuff like, "Hey, monkey, monkey," or "Want a banana," and other rude comments. Normally, I just ignore it, because I don't want to scare them by reacting, but there was this one time I just couldn't keep quiet. 2 teenage girls, maybe 14, started following me around, going on about the monkey. I turned around, walked right up to them, and in Thai I said, "That's about as dumb as it gets." Their eyes practically popped out of their heads. totally speechless. While I was in Germany, my friend, an English teacher at a middle school, invited me to drop by one of her classes. She introduced me. I said hi, mentioned I'm from the US, and that I was excited to be there. Then my friend goes, "Okay guys, feel free to ask him questions in English. What do you think Americans are like?" Some kid in the front row decides to be clever in German. "They're fat and stupid." He thought he was being sneaky, but everyone heard him. The teacher turns bright red. The whole class starts laughing, and I'm just standing there like, now what? So I switch to German and say, "You're right." Oh, and a bunch of Americans speak German too. The look on that kid's face. He practically lost it. He looked like a baby deer that stumbled onto a Beyoncé stage. He honestly had no clue Americans could actually understand German. My friends and I went to the mall to do some clothes shopping. While I was stuck in the fitting room, 2 store employees were standing nearby, totally trash-talking me in Spanish. They were annoyed I was taking too long trying stuff on, calling me a dumb gringo, and even teasing me in English, asking if I needed help. Little did they know I've actually got Spanish roots. So when I stepped out and told them in perfect Spanish, "No, I don't need any help," they just about died of embarrassment. My aunt and I were heading off on vacation to a resort. We're sitting in the airport, chatting in Finnish while we wait for our flight. She's got a broken leg, so she's in a wheelchair the whole time. Quick side note, even though she's Finnish, she's been living in Germany for a few years and speaks perfect German. I lived there a bit too, but I'm not nearly as fluent. Anyway, boarding time finally rolls around. The flight attendant spots my aunt in her wheelchair and offers to let us board first. Then, some guy, clearly annoyed, mutters to his wife something like, "They really ought to ban disabled people from flying." That's when my aunt, who's a total badass, tells me to pause for a second. I was pushing her chair, turns to him and in flawless German goes, "Excuse me, sir, but a broken leg won't keep me from my vacation, and what you said is really offensive to people with disabilities. I feel sorry for your wife. Have a nice flight." The guy went beet red and shut up. His wife looked absolutely shocked. Even though I'm Spanish, you'd never guess it by looking at me. I've got fair skin, light hair, and green eyes. When I lived in London, I got into all sorts of funny situations. My favorite was when I was on the subway, headed to work on a day when there was a big soccer match, Chelsea versus Barcelona. The train was packed with fans going to the game. At one point, the subway jerked to a stop. I lost my balance and kind of fell onto one of them. Since I didn't realize they were Spanish, I apologized in English. We keep riding, and for about 5 minutes, this dude's going on in Spanish about how it would have been better if that fat horse, me, had just hit the floor. Finally, we roll up to their stop, and as they're stepping off, still laughing at me, I yell in perfect Spanish, "Enjoy the game, assholes!" They were absolutely stunned, and the doors shut right in their faces. I swear, I was on cloud 9 for like a week after that. Here's my stepmom's story. She grew up in Japan and speaks Japanese, but she looks like a white Italian woman. She's only a quarter Japanese and doesn't look even remotely Asian. Anyway, one time she set up a little girls' day out and took her friends to a salon for manicures and pedicures. The women working there were chatting in Japanese, mostly gossiping about guys and stuff, but when they got to my stepmom, they switched gears and started talking about her. She's not super skinny, and her feet aren't exactly model feet, so they were basically roasting her in Japanese, laughing and acting like she had no clue what they were saying. She said she tried to ignore it at first, but after about 5 minutes of non-stop trash talk, she'd had enough. She finally spoke up in perfect Japanese. "Wow, I had no idea you only serve princesses here." Might not be the exact wording, but you get the idea. The looks on their faces were priceless. They instantly went from smug to mortified. They apologized in English and didn't say another word till she was done. I had this one hilarious moment in Japan. I'm walking down the street and hear someone say, "Whoa, check out that hottie, and he's got blue eyes." My ego shot through the roof, so I turned around to see who was complimenting me. Turns out, it was a couple of tiny 13-year-old schoolgirls who looked even younger. You know, because they're Asian. After that, it definitely wasn't such a confidence boost anymore. I'm Brazilian, but I've been speaking English since I was a kid, so I can totally pass as American, as long as I don't talk too much. One time, I had to fly from Atlanta to Rio. At the airport, I met these 2 gorgeous girls who spoke perfect English, and we found out we were on the same flight. Turns out they were American with Brazilian roots and assumed I was just another American guy. We chatted a bit, exchanged pleasantries, and it turned out one of them was seated right next to me. So we board the plane, and I'm putting my carry-on in the overhead bin when I overhear their mom talking to them in Portuguese. "Oh, he thinks I'm gonna let him sit next to one of you." I turn around and answer back in Portuguese. No worries, ma'am. I've got a girlfriend, so I'd be more than happy to share this flight with you guys. She just goes, oh, and then stayed quiet the whole flight. Haha. I don't really speak Spanish much, but I can understand everything no problem. I used to deal in used cars in Houston, and as you can guess, I ran into a lot of Spanish speakers. They never bothered to check if I spoke Spanish, cause I look like your typical white dude who probably only knows English. It was hilarious watching couples come up and straight up discuss their bargaining tactics right in front of me. I'd always catch their little tricks, like hearing them say, let's try to knock off $1,000, but if he'll at least give us 500, we'll take it anyway. Once we'd land on some price, I'd wait for the perfect moment to jump into their convo and show them I understood it all. They'd be totally stunned, like you could read on their faces, you sneaky bastard. Those moments were absolutely priceless. Thanks for watching. Feel free to drop a comment if you've ever had a funny moment when someone didn't expect you to understand their language. And don't forget to check out our other awesome videos.